What is going on, everyone? My name is Thomas Meinert. I am an agent with Remax Precision, and this is Thomas Talks on Thursday. This is a weekly live stream that I do to have what should feel like more of a conversation with my friends, followers, and family. This is me getting on live, discussing things that I think are interesting to me when it comes to the real estate world, when it comes to local Des Moines area news, and it is completely up to you guys. If you want to engage, we can turn this into more of a conversation, but the idea is for me to get more in depth and explain things. And today, I thought it would be interesting to talk about everything I look at or that you can look at before going to tour a property. There is a lot of information available through resources I have, available through resources that you have, that you can go ahead and look up this information and maybe even just cancel the tour because of the information you found, or maybe get even more excited to tour the place because you realize it is a good deal, or there's even more pros than what you originally thought when you sent me the house saying that you wanted to tour it. So let's get into some of the things that I typically look at. And for those of you that don't know, or that have never worked with me, the way I typically do it is when someone reaches out to me about a property to schedule a tour, the second I get it scheduled, before we get it actually at the house, I send you an email summarizing a lot of this stuff and summarizing whatever you think might be interesting. So let's pop this up. So one of the first things that I typically will talk about is I will analyze the location. Uh, One of the tools that we easily have access to on the MLS is the flood map. So we look and see if it falls in a floodplain, what type of floodplain it is, and I even will tell people if they are close to a floodplain. If you're close to a floodplain, depending on where the house sits, that could mean that there's still, even though you're not technically in a floodplain and you don't need flood insurance, that still means that there's probably a lot of water coming through your property. So you need to analyze the house even deeper to see if it can withstand that much water. Water is the enemy of a house, and water is pretty much undefeated. So it's always something to think about. One of the things I look at, and I also recommend if this is something you're concerned about as a buyer, is the property on a busy road, or does it back to a busy road? Um, and you could get a really good feel for this from driving by. You can also just get a really good feel from it from looking at it on a map. Is it a road that people would need to drive through to get from one high traffic road to another? Is it one of those really well known high traffic roads like Ankeny Boulevard, like Grand, like University, like Hickman? All of those. How much traffic do you think you get on that road other than people just coming home to their house? Is really something to know. There are tools out there. There's no number I put on it. Like there's no thing, but a lot of times when people ask me to go see a house, I will mention to them if I know, like, hey, that is on a busy road. I will point that out to people. Nearby uses, is very important to know if you are neighboring a commercial property. Um, and even if it's important to know too, if you are neighboring a commercial property and it is a type of commercial property that you don't mind, the other thing to keep in mind is that that could change anytime. A house next to you that is a residential property, and is zoned residential, more than likely will always stay a single family home. A commercial property can change from one thing to something completely different that is more noisy, or there's air pollution. There's lots of different things that could potentially happen to a commercial property right next door. So that is something that you should know. Um, if my client is very cautious of this too, I will normally look up they commute times to things that are important to them, like their workplace probably being most likely number one. But a lot of people want to know too, like where's the closest grocery store, where's the closest park, uh, church. If there's a church that they're going to already that they're planning on continuing to go to, how far away is that? Um, Lots of different things depending on your interest. Like where's the closest golf course? What all is close to it? I'm normally trying to get a decent idea of that before I go show the house. Those are a lot of different things you can look at location wise. Let's go to the next slide. You can normally get a pretty good idea from the seller's disclosures or the agent remarks or the public remarks of the condition of the home. So I'm normally trying to get an idea of all that stuff. Did the sellers replace the roof? When did they replace it? Same thing with HVAC. Um, did they replace it? And when did they do that? If the seller didn't disclose either of those things, a lot of the time I will go back and look at the previous seller's disclosure because that's typically still available to us if the home has been sold within 15 years. So a lot of times that is available to us. Trying to get an idea of the age of all of those things, especially if we can prove the age of those things, it is really, really nice because that helps out a lot with insurance, especially with the roof. One of the big things I look at in the seller's disclosure too, and I didn't put it in this slide, but the foundation, have they had issues with water in the basement? Why they have issues with water in the basement? Did they do anything to remediate it? Those are all the types of things that I'm trying to figure out. Have they had any past insurance claims? What were those insurance claims? How much were they for? Those are the types of things that stick with the house as well too, so that applies to insurance as well. And then in general too, I'm just trying to know what recent upgrades have they done, or what repairs have they done, whether it be smaller things like the water heater, um, appliances, and then that leads kind of right into the next thing is what items are actually included with the purchase. For the most part, you will see that um, all your kitchen appliances, your washer and dryer will stay, but there are some certain cases where the seller really wants to keep them. So I'm always making sure to point that out to the buyer is the seller is planning on taking that. Now, you can always offer a fair price and try to get them to keep it there, but they will typically disclose that they want to reserve that and they want to keep it. So the list price that they're asking at that list price, typically they want to take those items. So that is really, really important to know as far as condition of the home. Other things as far as condition of the home, you really have to just walk through and see it. Sorry, I was getting comments on stuff, and I wanted to see if it was relevant to the live stream. This is kind of the dorky stuff, but these are kind of things I like to know in case my seller or my buyer wants to write an offer on the property. So these are kind of the things I'm looking at numbers wise. So months of inventory is a really, really good tool. What months of inventory basically is if we had no new listings starting today, based on our rate of sales, how long would it take for us to sell out of our current inventory? And you could do this even for neighborhoods. So if we're going to look at the Drake neighborhood, we can see, okay, there's currently this much inventory. And in the Drake neighborhood, the last 6 months, they've been selling about this many houses per month. It would take 3 months to sell out of the inventory in the Drake neighborhood. And that would tell you that it is somewhat of a neutral market. So it'll tell you that it's not necessarily a buyer's market, not necessarily a seller's market. And it gives you a really good idea of where you're sitting at that particular neighborhood that you're looking at. I like to look at the days on market. And I especially like to compare days on market to whatever the median is for that neighborhood. So is it on market longer than homes are typically on market on this home? Or is it less than? Is it 1 day old? all of this can really, really be important information to know if your client ends up falling in love with the house. HOA fees are not exclusive to just townhomes. So a lot of newer construction single family, there's an HOA fee. It's just a yearly one typically. But we like to know what that number is because that does affect your monthly payment. The other thing that affects your monthly payment is taxes. In taxes, unless someone is looking at the same community all the way through, taxes, well, and even in that case, taxes can vary quite a bit, even if you're looking at the same list price. My home here in West Des Moines school districts would have a different tax rate than if I were to go see a similar home in Des Moines school district, or even if I was in West Des Moines Waukee school district, the tax rate is different than my home. So taxes can vary widely. So it is good to know if this is one of the ones that has a higher tax rate, therefore increasing your monthly payment, or a lower tax rate, therefore decreasing your monthly payment. Once you know HOA fees, taxes, and you have a good lender, all you're doing is estimating insurance, and you can get a really, really good idea of what your monthly payment would be if you were to offer a list price. So those are all important things for a buyer to know. I normally will peek at what else is listed in the neighborhood and at what price. It's normally a really, really good tool to know, hey, do I have the most expensive house in the neighborhood, or is this one of the lower priced houses in the neighborhood? It is normally considered a good idea to buy the lowest priced home in the neighborhood, because all of the more expensive homes are bringing the value of your home up. Whereas if you are the most expensive house in the neighborhood, when it comes time for you to resell it, you, not always, but more than likely, will have a little bit hard time selling that house than the rest of the homes in your neighborhood. So it is good information to know. We have available to us lots of different AVMs, automated value models. So what those are doing is, based on the address you put in, they're giving you an estimate of what you think the home is worth. I will typically, there's like 8 of these available online. I will look at all of them and kind of create like a median slash average to kind of get an idea of right around what price those automated value models is thinking versus what they're listed at, just to have an idea of if it's underlisted or overlisted, and kind of go from there. I should have put this right after days on market, but I will typically like to see if there's been a price change recently. So right now I think West Des Moines is sitting at like something 29, 30 days median on market. So if I'm looking at a house in West Des Moines that is 40, I know that's above median, but maybe they just did a price reduction. And that would typically mean, even though this has been on market a long time, there might be more competition coming in to look at this house and offer on the house. The last thing, and people could get really caught in the weeds on this one, but I do think there is some value in it, but price per square foot. If you were looking at similar sized homes in similar markets, price per square foot can really give you a good gauge on how good a condition someone thinks their house is in. So my house, for example, is 3 bedrooms, 3 bath. And then I went to go look at another 3 bedroom, 3 bath with right around the same finished square footage. It would be interesting to know where we're both at price per square foot. If they're higher, okay, is my home if mine's lower, theoretically mine should be in worse condition finish wise. If mine's lower and in better condition, that is probably hinting at theirs is overpriced. That's where it's best to use that. It's best to compare price per square foot to houses that are apples to apples, that are really, really good comparisons. It's not valuable for instance, to compare a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch with a 2-car garage to a 2-bed, 1-bath bungalow with no garage. Your price per square foot's not really going to tell you much there because there's so many other amenities that don't add square footage that one of the houses has compared to the other one. So those are really, really valuable things to look at. This is kind of a bonus one that I tossed in here. And honestly, I should have done acreages too, but analyzing new construction. Does this new construction have any covenants? If so, what are the rules and restrictions? A lot of the times, the biggest thing that comes up with these covenants is one, what are the restrictions on fences? Some of them aren't even allowing wood privacy fences anymore. So that's important to know. What are the easements that the covenant has currently? So can you even build a fence out to your property line? There's typically restrictions on the color your exterior could be. There's typically restrictions on having sheds. Some of them just don't have big enough lots to have sheds, so they have covenants against it. The builder specific things, I will typically, whatever builder we're going to look at, I will see how much inventory they have and how successful they've been recently at selling it. Is their inventory moving slower compared to other builders? That's really, really important information to know. If a client just sent me a listing out of the blue, the very first thing to do is see what construction stage it's in, because a lot of builders will list a home when it's just in foundation. Hey, cool, you want to go see this property, but there's no floor plan to even walk through. So that is something that we need to figure out. And if it's at that foundation stage, and this is the location that my client wants, that's the floor plan my client wants, okay, how long is it going to take to finish that? So that's really, really important information to know. Typically, you're trying to figure out, for example, this current listing that my client sent me doesn't have a finished basement. How much would it cost to finish that basement? That's really, really important information to know. Or is there any add-ons that the builder offers that you could just get done by the builder before closing? Glass window or glass sliding doors on showers, fences, window finishings, what kind of things like that does the builder offer? The other thing to look at is the development as a whole and how close is that development to being done. If it is just the start of a development, that could mean that the development will change a lot after you buy it. It could be a development that started out as these are going to be kind of mid-price point homes, but then as the development goes on, they sell to a builder that's building more starter price point homes, and that kind of changes just what I talked about earlier. All of a sudden, you have one of the more expensive houses in the development. If you're buying at the end, typically that is a good situation to get a decent deal from a builder. So it's good to know if the development's almost over. So that's always important information to know. Builder incentives. So typically I'll look at like the last 2 months of closes for that builder and see like, hey, is there any that they sold below list price? If so, how much? How many days on market was that home on market? Was it a situation where that particular one they were just desperate to get rid of, or is this something that they're doing commonly? And then typically trying to figure out if there's any incentives that the builder is tossing in, like, hey, if you offer before the end of the month, we're willing to do window finishings included, interest rate buy downs included, stuff like that. What kind of incentives are they offering? This is all really, really important information to know. I know this was a quick one, but I hope you guys found this information interesting. If there's anything like this that you guys want me to do, don't be afraid to comment, and I will cover whatever you guys want me to cover, or whatever you find interesting. Or if you have any follow-up questions on this specific video, don't be afraid to comment as well. Thank you, everyone that was watching. Have a great day. Talk to you later.